Hey everyone, Bruce Eckfeldt here. So I wanted to talk about company valuations and what you can do as a CEO or a senior leadership team member to really increase valuation when you're going to exit. If you want to learn more, stay tuned. So I work with companies on strategy and building out leadership teams who can really grow and scale. And oftentimes we're looking at exits inside companies, right? Whether it's in the short term, the next couple of years, or just long term over the next 5-10 years, we're looking for an exit. Exits are key. Ultimately, every company has to exit. Everyone has to exit a company. Unfortunately, we don't live forever, right? So really understanding what is going to drive valuation, what is going to drive a successful exit is going to be key to every company. And it's really key to the work that I do with senior leadership teams, with CEOs on developing strategy and talent. And it's something that there are some things you can do, some areas that you can really focus on. And we're going to talk about them now. So one of the first things I do with CEOs and when I work with them and focusing on how we're going to grow and scale a company, looking at strategy, looking at developing their leadership team, is ultimately we need to figure out how to make them redundant, right? We need to figure out how to make them not critical to the business performance. So I always say, if you are key to operating the business, to the business success, you are going to be very unattractive to a buyer, right? No one wants to buy a company where you've got a key person risk, particularly a CEO who is needed to drive the company, right? Because you sell the company and you're gone, like they end up having to figure out how to fill those holes and those gaps. And if valuation is going to, if the company performance is going to really be affected by you leaving, then your valuation is going to be really affected. Any good buyer is going to see that and is going to factor that into the offer they're giving you, to the valuation they're giving to the company. So if you're not redundant, that's going to be a really issue when it comes to valuation. So a lot of what I do is making sure that we're building out a senior leadership team. We've got redundant people in terms of talent. We've got a deep bench in terms of people that can fill different roles. And we've got processes and systems and SOPs that really kind of define what gets done. So we're not relying upon high-level key executives to make decisions on a day-to-day basis in terms of operations. We want systems and process and procedures. So number one, making sure that you're redundant, make sure you've got a team behind you, make sure you've got process and procedures. That's really going to help your valuation. So another thing we look at in terms of company valuation is client lists and customer lists, making sure that we don't have any concentration, either in terms of specific companies, clients or customers, or in terms of categories, segments. Anytime that I see a high concentration, I would say anything over 20%, we're going to flag, right? It's going to be anyone who's going to buy a company, who's going to look to buy your business, is going to be looking at, well, what is the risk that any one customer leaves, right? In general, but certainly anytime you're dealing with a transaction, you're dealing with risk around in terms of loyalty and customer retention. And if I've got a key customer, anything over 20%, certainly if we're getting to 30, 40, even 50%, we've got serious issues. We need to figure out how to resolve that. Unfortunately, we don't want to just fire customers, particularly if they're 50%, but we need to figure out how to build the business, and we need to figure out how to scale things in ways that are going to reduce client customer concentration and risk. So understanding that, looking at that, figuring out where is my risk. It might be specific names, right? It might be a specific customer. Could be a category, right? Could be an industry that if that industry undergoes a general industry risk or change in the industry, or something happens where that whole segment is not performing well, like you don't want to be at risk of having a high concentration of people in that industry as well. So it's always a balance, right? Because we want to have core customers, we want to create niches, we want to create focus, but we need to maintain a certain amount of diversity and reducing concentration, so we're reducing that risk. So client concentration, customer concentration is a big thing that's going to affect valuation. So another thing that I look at is your strategic differentiation. So anyone that's going to buy a business is going to be looking at, okay, well, how well can I grow and scale this? How well can I defend it? How susceptible is that company to competitive pressure? And if you don't have a well differentiated strategy and you don't have a niche inside your market, that your valuations suffer, right? Because companies are going to look at it and say, well, this is very open to competition. Anyone coming in could just beat you on price and take away your clients, right? That is not going to be a great thing when it comes to valuation in terms of how buyers are going to look at the company. So making sure you've got a well-differentiated position, meaning that you've got a clear set of factors that you're known for in the market that are valuable to your core customer, that they're highly defendable, that you've got either processes, you've got IP, you've got talent, you've got things that are difficult to copy. It could be an individual differentiator. It could be something that no one else could do. Could be combinatorial, like no one else does these three things like we do as well as we do. So there's sort of different ways to create differentiation, but you have to have some type of differentiation to increase value. If you don't, you're going to be more of a commodity. You're going to get a poor multiple, a poor valuation. So the more you can create differentiation that's very clear and defensible, the higher that multiple is going to be, the top end of the market you're going to get in terms of the price of your company. So another thing we want to look at in terms of valuation is how systematized is your operation, right? We want to make sure that we've got good policies, procedures, tools, technology that make delivery consistent, of high quality, that doesn't take a lot of senior team time, senior team oversight to be able to manage, right? We want it to be fairly automated, right? That's going to increase valuation. Anyone buying the company that sees a machine that can run again and again and again and produce consistently is going to see that as a high value. If your delivery is based on having a handful of people that really drive the process, that if they leave or if they're not happy or something happens, your whole operations and your delivery is going to be affected, not going to help valuation. A buyer is going to look at this and say, look, this is a big risk. I need to factor this in, that I need to have resources available, or I'm not going to be able to pay as much because I need to make sure that I can put more capital into this if I need to maintain that. So making sure I've got technology, systems, SOPs is going to be key to increasing valuation. So one of the other key things I look at is consistent delivery by the senior leadership team, right? A senior leadership team that has shown quarter over quarter the ability to plan and set targets and deliver on those targets consistently without a lot of drama is going to be very valuable in a buyer's eyes, right? A buyer wants to see the ability for that company and that team to deliver on a regular basis, to say what they're going to do what they're going to do, to deliver on what they said they were going to do is going to be key, right? Because they want to buy the company's future performance, right? That's why people are buying companies. That's why we pay you money for things. And if you can show, if that leadership team has shown that they can deliver consistently over time, it's going to give more confidence to the buyer that the buyer will receive the benefits that they're projecting, right? A team that hasn't been able to deliver consistently or sets targets that they consistently miss, or it's highly variable, a buyer's going to look at that and say, look, I need to factor that into my valuation, right? I can't pay as much for a company that has this uncertainty. So having some kind of process, usually the last 3 years, quarterly plan, this is what I do with companies, is set up a roadmap, set up a quarterly plan showing consistent growth, being able to kind of predict that and then deliver that regularly is going to be key to driving valuation, and it's going to be really attractive to any buyer. So making sure you've got some kind of process to be able to do those predictions and then execute on those predictions and hit those numbers is going to really help your valuation. So those are some of the things that I look at in terms of helping companies increase valuation. There's many other, but those are a couple of key ones. If you want to learn more about what I do as a leadership coach, strategic coach, I work with companies on helping them set a strategy, building out a leadership team, setting up a roadmap, consistently delivering over time, building out processes, procedures, roles, responsibilities to make sure that we're going to be able to grow and scale predictably. Key thing that I do with companies. If you want to learn more, email me, bruce@eckfeldt.com. If you have any questions on any of the items in this video, happy to talk through them, happy to look at your situation. I actually have some assessments we can do as well. So email me, we can talk about some of those and how we can help sort of diagnose things and really set some priorities for how you're going to grow and scale. Again, bruce@eckfeldt.com. You can check out my website, eckfeldt.com. Looking forward to talking to you.